Welcome, Corey Lee from Tennessee, Nashville, that is. And I thank Gary Johnson, Black Men in America, for making this possible so that we can hear Corey Lee give us a summary because he was not able to be on the show because we ran overtime on Seeking the Truth and Justice, which is Marty Oakley, made possible by Marty Oakley, TS Radio Network. And we were not able to have him on because Dr. Adebayo gave a very riveting summation about what was going on with the Moses Cemetery in Bethesda, Maryland. I thank Corey for coming and giving us time today to put together this video that we plan to share with our and viewing public. Corey Lee from Tennessee. Corey, a lot of people know you, so the only thing we need to do is we want you to tell our listening public and viewing public what the problem is still with the USDA, and tell them about what I consider the smoking gun that you found out. And I think as you move forward, and also the filing that you and the reason why you have in fact filed in court in Tennessee on behalf of yourself as well as Black farmers of this country. Welcome.
So I can kind of give you what's going on in my world right now over the last 2 months, and some interesting things and points of law have now been presented before the court. Back in January, I went and applied to get a new farm ownership loan and a new farm operating loan. And if you read the Inflation Reduction Act, it squarely says in there that those farmers who were subjected to discrimination in the past before January the 1st, 2021, that they would be able to get new loans. And so I went to test it. So I went and applied to get a new loan. And basically, the people at the FSA here in Tennessee, it wasn't their fault. It's all on Tom Vilsack. And so we had found, we substantiated my claims that Tom Vilsack and OGC put together a scheme. And the scheme was, so when the white farmers have been paid through the COVID-19 pandemic relief, CARES Act, American Rescue Plan Act, and the Trump trade boards, they were paid by direct deposit. And so when the few black farmers that got any kind of debt relief through Section 22006 of the Inflation Reduction Act, they automatically made the payment. So when I went and applied for the farm and got rejected for it, they spelled out why the rejection was. So to distinguish what I just told you, they paid the white farmers that were getting pandemic relief for the last 5 years in direct deposit, which allowed them to either go make a payment on any alleged debts to the USDA, to any alleged debts to guaranteed lenders, any alleged debts to supply houses and so forth. By Tom Vilsack making an automatic payment, and this is on the letter that was sent to me on my denial letter, it says because the USDA made an automatic payment, it's considered a debt write-off, so I'm no longer available or eligible to get any future federal assistance. So now, what does that tell me? So even the white farmers who was distressed and were behind a couple of payments, that money was still sent to them through a direct payment. Even the socially disadvantaged farmers, which would include white farmers or distressed farmers through 22006, they got a direct payment. So what Vilsack was doing in retaliation against black farmers who may have a pending discrimination complaint from the 2008 Farm Bill, which a moratorium says that, and also those complaints, the moratorium was subject to the APA long before pandemic came. So Bill Sack and OGC, what they sought to do, instead of making a direct payment to myself and other black farmers like me, they made an automatic payment so I could never get any future assistance. Well, there's nothing in the Inflation Reduction Act that says that Bill Sack can settle those pending complaints. It supersedes the APA or the Administrative Procedures Act, which Bill Sack had supposedly 180 days. In my case, it's been 16 years to settle those complaints that was lodged before the office, the Assistant Secretary of Civil Rights. And we all know that they have not had an Assistant Secretary for Civil Rights since 2016 for Dr. Joe Leonard. So to move a little further, well, back February the 8th, there was a letter sent to me from the USDA. And it kind of threw me way off, because what it explained was that there was a package, a pandemic package for myself in the amount of $387,000. And said that they took $220,000 and paid off a debt that was actually had a moratorium on it that had nothing to do with the pandemic. So the logical question was, well, if my pandemic package was $387,000, even if you took the 220, maybe $6,000 or so, where's the $158,000 been remaining? That pandemic package was determined in October of 2022. We're now in March of 2024, and they cannot explain what did they do with the rest of the money, and why did they not send me the rest of the money like they did the white farmers? Nobody can explain that. And so to go a little further, now they started off with the HUB system. And so they said that, Congress passed the law in which we're challenging that in court. So they first started, they stated to the court in Tennessee that I would be paid under Section 22007 in November or December of 2023. That didn't happen. So then they put out that through the press, or not really through the press, but word of mouth, that these black farmers would get that payment through 22007 in March. Now it's been told that it may be the summer. I heard from someone just Friday that black farmers are probably not going to get that money at all in 2024, because the HUBs so-called has so many complaints that it's going to be 7 or 8 months before they can make determination. And then it's going to take several more months for the USDA to mail the checks. Well, if you go back historically and take a look at the events from the China trade wars with Trump coming forward, Tony Perdue was able to put out $565 million on the first round of white farmers in 6 days after that. 6 days, $565 million. Tom Vilsack, when they took office, there was still money remaining. He got those same payments out of the same act to white farmers in 12 days. Now, why is it nearly 2 years later, a year and a half later, that black farmers still haven't been paid one dime? See, it's a delay. And Monica Raines, who's a senior assistant, was quoted in a paper down in Georgia. They were speaking that this is quote unquote. She goes, we meaning the USDA, are now reviewing the application process right now. What the act simply says in the Inflation Reduction Act in 22007 is that these HUBs are supposed to be independent of the USDA, and the only thing the USDA was supposed to be doing was making the payment. So she's let the cat out the bag, but it's actually the USDA that's making the determinations, and to give them an opportunity to retaliate against black farmers who have filed complaints in the past for discrimination. So that's now has been a complaint has been amended in the Middle District of Tennessee to include the HUB system, because first, our argument is that Congress has already said that a private entity cannot administer a congressional act, and that administering a congressional act, that's how we came to the notion that, hey, the USDA never put any rulemaking out as required in the Federal Register. That means if the private entity says that they did the reviewing of the applications, then there's no appeals process. And so you have to watch Tom Vilsack. He's a very, very slick politician. There's not one man in modern times has been more destructive to the advancement of black farmers and ranchers than Tom Vilsack. He's a very, very skilled racist, is what he is. And the problem that I have is that our black leadership, they're in these meetings. They know exactly what's going on. They're getting sidetracked with Hunter Biden and protecting Joe Biden's son, opposed to making sure or having oversight on Tom Vilsack. His history speaks for itself. He's actually going into a court in Florida and says we're still discriminating against black people, and that hasn't been challenged. So it's very trying time. And the thing is, again, it's been a year and a half, and these black farmers haven't been paid. But also, I want everybody to be aware of, if they had a pandemic package through their own formulation, Congress granted to these black farmers and ranchers or socially disadvantaged farmers down to the cents. If they had it for me, that means they had it for everybody else. So the next logical question is where is the rest of this money for these black farmers? Nobody wants to give an answer. I sent a message today to Zach Ducheneau. I sent a message today to Dwayne Goldman, and they have not responded. But 157,000, 58,000 is a big deal. But more so, that money should have been directly put into my account, so I could have went and paid any alleged debt, so I could get future federal assistance. That also means grants and things of that nature going forward. So basically, they're trying to make sure that black farmers and ranchers or black businesses that participate in agriculture will never participate if they ever owed Tom Vilsack money. So if they did it under Section 22006, will they be doing the same thing under 22007 for all the farmers that will be getting this payment? Will they say that it was, hey, this was a write-off to the United States and you can never get future assistance?
There's another question I think that needs some clarity. If you know all this information and we have people who are working at USDA, and you have all these groups around the country to give technical assistance, why aren't they saying something about this process? And why aren't people like Booker and Senator Booker and Senator Warnock, and Scott on the House Ag Committee, and you have Stabenow on the Senate Ag Committee, how is it possible that farmers are being allowed to be abused in this way, and we have these people who are considered to be experts remaining silent? Can you just shortly give me your opinion on that?
Okay, well, Secretary Vilsack sent out $70 million to places like Federation down in Georgia for technical assistance. Basically, that was hush money to be silent because they got paid money. Once you bought and paid for it, you can't speak against your oppressor. And so it was probably maybe 11 groups. The Federation was one. I think the land loss was another. And they have been paid to be silent. Now, they didn't apply for that money. Vilsack called them their trusted partners. Yes, they're trusted partners. Is give me some money and I'm not going to say anything. And as far as the politicians, you have David Scott sitting there. He was the chairman of the Ag Commission for the House. You have Sanford Bishop there. You have all those black farmers down in South Georgia, and those two scoundrels right there. Or Tom Vilsack is my friend. If you call that man your friend, you have no business representing anybody in Congress, and especially those black constituents down in your district. And it's now what I'm hearing is that Senator Warnock won't even return the calls to those black farmers that he vowed to help. I always say that, Ebenezer Baptist Church down in Atlanta was once home with the great Martin Luther King. And now Warnock is the pastor there, but King finished his race. He said, we may not all get there, but we're going to get there. Warnock got halfway through the march, figured out this Lord was too heavy. He turned around and went home. and left all those black farmers down in the state of Georgia, state that he represents, at the discretion of one Tom Vilsack. History and Tom Vilsack amounts to the same, but you got to understand, it's not, Tom Vilsack is not doing anything that Joe Biden is not allowing him to do. All this stuff is in the White House, but you come and send people like James Clyburn out here, saying, Mr. President, Black America's behind you. No, we're not. Because the problem is you take people like a Clyburn who wants to speak for all Black America while Biden and Vilsack is destroying rural Black America. We're not behind you. And in fact, if the GOP was not so terrible or somebody else would run against Biden, they know that they won't get that White House again in 2024. But they will not. Remember when Obama was the president and Biden was out there saying, when you have differences with people that you should be able to sit down with and shouldn't be at your neck. Name one time Joe Biden has sat down with Black farmers. And there have been multiple requests. He won't even sit down. Joe Biden doesn't see Black people as human. But you have the Black Congressional Caucus sitting there, trying to pander their community for a man who's been more destructive to his legislative history than any Bull Connor or any George Wallace. That's a fact. You see, it's our leaders who have been bought out sitting at the table and think they're doing something so glorious while this man, Joe Biden, is destroying Black farmers. There's nothing beautiful about that. If you ever get on the other end of the discrimination that's been handed forth by Tom Vilsack, it's not pretty. He admits it and he laughs at your face. What are you going to do about it? And our leadership is there. We have to replace most of the members of the Black Congressional Caucus. We need the young lions as a Jasmine Crockett from Texas. We need to come here to Tennessee and look at a Justin Jones and a Justin Pearson. That's Black leadership. Not afraid to take on the establishment. But right now, we got a whole lot of shoe shuffling coming out of Congressional Black Caucus. And that's not good enough for Black America. We have got to make a change. Once we clean up our house, then we can make situations better for our people. But right now, what we have in place is not sufficient.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you, Corey Lee, for coming on Seeking Truth and Justice this afternoon. I thank you very much. Is there anything else that you want to add before we close?
No, it doesn't be today. Just in the next couple of weeks, once we get their response in, we'll come back and they will try to articulate in court for the very subjects that we named at the beginning, and I'll be able to pass it on to you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.